another Aligner Insider podcast. Well, hello everybody in podcast land. This is Dean Steinman and Dr. Glaser, and we are back with another Aligner Insider podcast for you. We hope everybody has had a great summer of 2021. Looking forward to the fall season. And we are very, very excited to have with us some special guests today. Um, in this world, we like to do things that can give you smiles. Karma is a good thing. So we have with us today Alexis Barclay and Melanie Johnston, who are with Smiles Change Lives. Great organization, doing wonderful things throughout the community and giving back and giving people the ability to smile, because we're all in the smile business and we love to be able to spread the smile. Nothing, as I said, mentioned many, many times, as the great Jerry Garcia says, nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile. So we're going to, spread the word. So, Barry, first of all, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Dean. It is, I always have to do a check-in. It's Wednesday, September 1st, boo-hoo, at the
Already,
unofficial
yeah.
end of the summer. And we've got the remnants of Hurricane Ida um, bearing down on us. So, but doing okay nonetheless.
Good. Everybody down in this in the bayou area. I hope you're all safe and sound down there. It's pretty
You
crazy.
bet.
Mother Nature can be very forceful there. So, Alexis, Melanie, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. So let's just jump right into it. Smiles change lives. Nothing, in this industry, those are three powerful words. So tell us the story behind Smiles Change Lives. What's you guys all about?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us. We're really excited to be on. Smiles Change Lives started, in different ambiguations about 30 years ago. It was started by our founder, Virginia Brown, and our chairman of the board, Tom Brown, her son. Virginia grew up in the Great Depression, and her sister needed braces. And back then, only one of the sisters could actually afford. They could only afford one set of braces for one sibling, and Virginia was not one of them. So Virginia had to go through some social issues as far as bullying is concerned. She used to be called Snaggletooth at school,
Oh,
that nature. Just real,
right.
you know how kids can be, and
Sure.
we'll have a recurring theme about how important smiles are when you're growing up, and so she always said that when her ship came in, she would start an organization, an access to care program for uh, for underserved communities, underserved children, to be able to get access to a smile. And we started here in Kansas City, Missouri. Go Chiefs! I'm sorry about that, everyone
It's
else.
football season. No worries. We'll throw in a few jet chants while we in the
Yeah,
middle
I
here
figured
too.
you would be. Yeah, JETS. Yeah, but we work with the UMKC School of Dentistry here, University of Missouri, Kansas City, with our founding orthodontist, Dr. Kelly Toombs, out of Prairie Village, Kansas, and we started with the express idea just to have 16 children in the Kansas City metro area treated. That was the plan. That was the mission. That was the goal. Um, Long story short, it could be a very long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. But within the first 5 to 10 years, what we figured out was that there wasn't really an access to care program for orthodontics. And so very quickly we moved into Kansas, into Missouri. We started working with Dr. Steve Litton up in Minnesota, and then down in Florida. And then even a longer story shorter, by 2009, we were in all 50 states and moving
Wow.
into Canada. So with the original goal of treating 16 kids a year, by the time we got into 2009, 2010, the goal started becoming 500 kids a year,
Wow.
1,000 kids a year. And very proud to say that as of 2021, we've been doing this now for almost 25 years, and we've treated over 16,000 kids, and we work with over 750 doctors. So
Wow, that's
it's
incredible.
grown wonderfully, and we're very proud to work with the wonderful doctors that we do.
Hmm. It's great that you could do that. So, why don't you walk us through the story? So, um, from both sides, if somebody is looking for or needs braces or orthodontic treatment, what do they have to do? How do they qualify? Do they have to fill out a form? They do a video interview, or what makes somebody even able to be part of the program from a user standpoint?
Sure. So that's there's, yeah, like you say, both sides. So there's a couple of different ways, because a lot of doctors will find candidates in their offices. The primary way we find it is generally the way most orthodontists find any kind of referring patient. And we'll have them get to our website, fill out our application. We want to make sure that these guys are good candidates for the office's community give back. So we want to make sure that their finances are in order, basically in need, and almost more to the point, and almost more importantly to the point, we want to make sure that these guys are motivated, will show up on time, will just be a great candidate, because it's kind of what makes the world go round.
Right.
Every doctor that I know wants to help,
Okay.
and every family that wants the help wants to is appreciative of that help. And as long as it runs on that side of things, we're the third party that tries to make that. Not tries, we do make that happen.
Oh, great. So obviously there are, different organizations that like to give back and help there. So how do you decide who also to bring on from the other side, from a provider standpoint? Will you work with any practice? Do you actually vet them as well, and to see who would be a good fit? How do you decide, what's a good thing? And if, anybody out there is listening and they want to get involved, listen carefully. This might be something that you might be interested in here. So, if somebody was working with another organization, or just say, yeah, that's a good idea, I want to do something like this, what do you look for?
It's a wonderful question. Not to hug the mic from Melanie, but I'll take this one as well, because I primarily work with the doctors. So um, short answer is we want to work with orthodontic specialists. We do not want to. We want to make sure that um, you're committed to helping people in your community. So the vetting part of it is, like I say, most doctors that I've ever met, most orthodontists I've ever met, are extremely good at what they do.
Right.
We know the percentages of who goes to ortho school and all that kind of stuff, so we don't have to get into that. But the bottom line is, we want to make sure that we are helping the orthodontic profession as well as helping the kids in the community as well. We do work with general dentists as far as referral sources are concerned, and make sure that all of our kids have primaries. But with that said, as far as the doctors doing the work itself, we only work with orthodontic specialists. And yeah, there's a vetting situation as far as um, making sure that we have the paperwork for the orthodontist, and make sure that they went to school and have their license and all of that kind of stuff. So we certainly
Right.
look into that, and make sure that all of our doctors are actually doctors. So
Right.
so that's that part of it. Yeah.
Okay. So how do sometimes people, they get something for free, they might not take it as serious or show up for appointments or whatever. I'm sure Dr. Glaser can do this. Barry's been around the block several times, and has offered this type of give back to the community before. We spoke about it, and he said that it's great. It's great karma. It makes sleeps at night. It makes them happy, but at the same time, some people just take advantage of it. They don't show up for the appointments. They don't follow through. They don't put on the do what needs to be done. So listen, you can't obviously you can take the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So how do you get that kind of pushback? So if somebody says to you, "Well, you keep telling me people that this and that," and then so how do you determine who's going to really? You can't see into the future, but how is that? How do you face that challenge? How do you handle that challenge? Because people that sometimes you think they get something for free, they don't take it seriously.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Dean. And that's that's part of our 25 plus year evolution.
Okay.
Because when the program initially started, we didn't charge families to be a part of the program. Um, and what our experience was is that, just like you said, they took advantage of it. They wouldn't show up for appointments. They didn't necessarily follow the treatment plan. Um, and they often had sort of an entitled attitude that
Hmm.
they deserved the care.
Right.
Um, and I think the doctors felt a little taken advantage of. That's not what we wanted at all. We wanted something that everybody wins in. So what we started doing is charging a small fee to families. Now the average
Okay.
cost nationwide for braces is about $6,000 right now.
Right.
So when a family applies to the program, they have a $30 application fee that they pay. And then once we have vetted the child and gone through the matching process and found an orthodontist that would like to work with that family, at that point, the families have a $650 financial investment that they make. Um, so it's about 10% of what the national average is. And we found that was a great point to where it's not free, but for a lot of families, that's a lot of money. And
Right.
so by them having some skin in the game, it really upped the compliance. And
Hmm.
families now were a part of the process and they were excited. And they also knew at the same time they were being given a great gift. So what that money does is that allows us to find more doctors to come into the program and more families that need help.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
in turn, families, as a part of the program, turned around and they would start referring friends and family to that doctor so that, everybody had skin in the game and everybody got something out of it at the same time.
Great. So Barry, yeah, obviously, you work with some other organizations in here. What's been your experience as far as this? Obviously, at the end of the day, you're trying to do a good deed and trying to make people smile and give them a new outlook on life. What's been your experience as far as the results that you've seen, or a surprise that you've seen when dealing with in this type of environment?
So I haven't worked with Smiles Change Lives. I have worked with some other organizations, and now and I don't want to necessarily focus in on the challenges because you also understand that we come to understand pretty quickly that these kids and these families have very, very difficult lives, and as much as an orthodontist, the world revolves around that appointment and that occlusion and all that kind of stuff. We do understand that sometimes it's difficult, whether it's illness or financial or transportation. There's a lot of challenges that sometimes prevent these patients from, let's say, maybe being prompt for appointments and all that kind of stuff. But putting that aside, I mean, fundamentally, it's been very gratifying. You don't, not every patient sort of follows through, but we've had several patients that we really have changed their lives and are very appreciative. So, from my perspective and my team's perspective, it's a joy, to treat these patients, they're very appreciative. We haven't yet come up against, let's say, the entitled type of family. Very appreciative, very thankful, very grateful. Bring us all kinds of baked goods and things like that. I mean, all the things that really just make you feel. I mean, they're not. I mean, I suppose it's not the primary reason that us as orthodontists that we do this. We really want to give back, but I think sometimes the person that gets the most satisfaction out of this is really me, and that's and which is even better. But to be able to help these kids, and we're not talking about like little spaces between teeth. We're talking about severe malocclusions, disfiguring malocclusions. You can really transform someone's life. So it's been a great experience, and I definitely love the idea of the skin in the game. And I think as we've known that for a long time, that there's that old adage, which I don't know if is always true, that people, if you don't charge them, that's what they value. But I do think that after 25 years, it sounds to me like SCL has found the secret sauce to up the compliance and make sure that it's a rewarding experience from both the doctor and patient perspective.
Yep. So, guys, why don't you tell me a little bit of, like, a myth that you guys have to, you know, comment that you want need to debunk that's out in the community there, as far as just you or your overall, industry. That what do people think before they get to know, or lift before they lift up the hood? What's the one myth that you that's out there, that you want to debunk?
And Dr. Glaser can actually might be able to help me on these ones, but there's a few of them. The one thing that I know, I've been working with Smiles now for 14 years, and I know more about the orthodontic industry than I ever thought I'd know. My background is in nonprofit and business management. So the one big myth that I see is it's the amount of information about how the program works, and the misinformation that might be out there because of A, other programs, or B, because of um, the uh, the tender, the wanting to give back, but the worry that comes with that. And so
Right.
being able to be in front of people and have people just speak to the base level of just exactly what Dr. Glazer was saying. What this helps when you said it probably helps me more than anyone. That's not you're not the first doctor I've heard say those exact words.
Yeah.
And so the gratitude goes both ways. We
Mhm.
are in a position where we can help. And being able to get that across rather than going, hey, you know what, I'm spending money, or money's coming out of my pocket by doing this, or
Mhm.
something along those lines. Um, it's depending on where the doctor is in their practice world and those kinds of things. Just being able to have the clarity of, it doesn't cost you anything to be a part of Smiles Change Lives. We work with business partners, um, hardware companies, retainer companies, things like that, to help with costs. We work with our patients to make sure that they understand that they may be put in chairs that are open rather than having them
Mhm.
come in to chairs that are paid for. Not that we want to treat them like lesser people, but at the same time,
Right.
we want to make sure that we're helping as many people as possible and making sure that the doctors are comfortable with those things. So just trying to make sure that everyone understands that we've thought through all of those processes in the last 25 years, or at least
Right.
come up against them. And a lot of it is based on what we hear from our providers. I mean, we make sure that we take everything our providers say to us and model what we're doing and our processes after that.
Yeah, I can want to maybe echo on that too, and I think this is one of those situations where I think when you're talking about myths, Dean, is that the wrong question maybe that sometimes doctors ask is, what's in it for me? And I think this is one of these situations. They say that the greatest charity is actually given anonymously, and I think I think you just have to kind of go in with that mindset that this is unconditional. I mean, whatever you get back, I don't expect anything in return. I'm providing this for the patient, and I'm doing it for someone else. I'm not really looking for anything back. And I think if doctors go in with that mindset and sort of set aside look, we all know that there's a lot of pressures on running a practice, and it's become harder and harder. Even before the whole COVID thing,
Right.
and the pressures of running an orthodontic practice and running a viable business are more difficult than ever. But this is one of those situations to put aside, the businessman's hat, business person's hat, excuse me, and to really you're doing for others. And I think if you take that mindset, that's really the most beautiful kind of giving that can be, when you're not looking for something in return. But I do think that maybe I can imagine that doctors, their first question to you is, what's in it for me, or how can I promote this, or I mean, and I'm sure there are those opportunities. I
Absolutely.
would imagine I can ask you that there are those opportunities to get recognition, but I think that probably, at least in my mind, should not be the primary goal here. And I think, so I don't know. I mean, maybe we could talk about that a little bit. Do you find pushback from some doctors about, maybe they're doing this for the recognition, or maybe for reasons beyond, let's say, just doing for others?
I think they admit it. I
It's,
mean,
it's such a good question. I mean, and it's right there in the crux of the myth idea. I think for the most part, like I say, I think for the most part, everyone wants to give. The one thing that we often talk about is what can we give back to help to kind of put the cherry on top. Where are the pluses that we can give? And the one thing about being a nonprofit that is not lost on us is that we do have an ability to be able to open doors into local news sources, press releases, social media that maybe a for-profit business doesn't have. So we do have strings to that bow to a certain extent. Like you say, is it the primary reason people should be doing it? No, but at the same time, there is certainly something we can offer when it comes to those things, which it kind of goes down that myth world of, yeah, there are these little details that I didn't think about before. It's not just here, take a kid. But with that said, yeah, the best orthodontists that I work with are the ones that are more towards the anonymous side of things, and are always very appreciative of anything that we can give them as far as more a spotlight shone on their great work that they do.
So just jump on that there. So from both sides there, what's the best feedback you've received? Alexis, and also about Dr. Glaser, positively or negatively, from a community, from your colleagues, from anybody, that has helped you in, your the future, with work as far as, practice, as far as taking on more people, as far as, you guys there. So, what's the best feedback you've received across the board from either of you sides?
Well, if you don't, I wanted to say that it kind of tags along with what Alexis said, is that over the past 25 years, our program has changed so much.
Right.
What we started out doing is not what we are doing now. And we're always continually refining it based on the feedback we get from our docs, because we want the program to be easy for them to implement into their practice.
Right.
And we want it to be fun for their staff to do and take part of. So we don't want the work to be on them. We want it to be on us. So we get all kinds of feedback. And it's very welcomed, because that lets us know not only the direction they're going, but the direction we need to go to help them. And Alexis, you may have more to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, from the doctor side of things, it's certainly very gratifying to us when the doctors realize that we are doing everything we can to keep their business status quo and even help towards their business. Trying to run that back end of their access to care program takes a lot of pressure off not just the doctor, but the office staff, office managers, and to be able to have a cohesive relationship with those guys is fantastic. And then on the flip side of that, from the patient point of view, I mean, the feedback, and Dr. Glaser kind of touched on it, getting baked goods and those wonderful little things. And I mean, the amount of stories that we get, it really is, it is life-changing on so many different levels. Whether, I'm a father of three myself, and talking to a mother or a father that didn't think they could, and then
Changing lives.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Is there any particular case recently that stands out to you that you might want to share with us?
Good question. Yep. Yeah. What touched your heart? Anything that changed
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
organization or you guys? Yeah.
I'll grab the Kleenex, but no, I mean, there's there's a few, and it kind of dovetails into another part of the program and how we've evolved. But one of the biggest ones that touched me immensely. One of my sons is autistic. He's on the autism spectrum, which I feel we all are, but that's beside the point. That's my own personal thoughts. Dr. Toombs, Kelly Toombs here in Prairie Village, Kansas, our wonderful founding orthodontist who's just a guiding light, called me one day and said, "Hey, I've got two kids in my chair. They wouldn't qualify financially for Smiles Change Lives. However, the two kids have special needs. They're both on the spectrum. Mom is a school teacher and a breast cancer survivor." And so we're sitting there on the phone, and I'm saying, well, if the application comes in now, they would be rejected based on their finances. And they were maybe, a very small amount above what our regulations are. And I just said to her, I said, look, Dr. Toombs, if we're not helping these kids, I'm not entirely sure what we're doing here, And so
Right.
born out of that was what we call our Doctor's Choice program, which is the flip side to the way we normally process. This is not something that is known out in the public. This is purely for our doctor's knowledge. And that is, if someone comes into your office and says, hey, I need A, B, C, D, and E, F, and G, you can qualify them orthodontically and then send them to us so we can make sure that the motivation is there, that they sign off on all of our rules and regulations. And that mother, just having that conversation with that mother, and the amount of gratitude that was in existence in that conversation, I can't say enough about it. It's as a parent, it's everything, it's everything to these guys. And
Wow.
and to be able to have, and on the doctor's side as well, I mean, there's been many tears shed talking about these stories and how grateful these families are. So it's, there's definitely multiple stories, but that's one that definitely touched me personally. So.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you guys to put on your crystal ball glasses here, and where do you see the orthodontic community and your foundation and other ones like this in the next 12 to 24 months? What do you see anything that's going to change seismically or not at all? Because it ain't broke, don't fix it, or based upon, the technologies, adaptations, COVID, etc. What do you guys see, as far as 12 to 24 months from now?
Well, the one thing that's become super apparent over the last 18 months with COVID is the need to pivot businesses. I think everybody's had some sort of disruption.
Sure.
But we know even before COVID, the orthodontic industry has had a massive disruption. With the advent of the clear aligners, and then the do-it-yourself aligners, and then doctors other than dentists doing orthodontics. That's a major change.
Sure. Right.
And everybody's had to pivot. And one of the things we've seen is that the doctors that seem to do the best were the ones that were able to pivot quickly and take advantage of the technology and just realize they couldn't do business the way they used to do business. So how do they change? How do they pivot? So what we've seen is something, I think, a trend that's going to continue, and that's implementing new technologies. Going to the virtual consults, doing more things digitally, less chair time. And I think that's just going to continue.
Sounds familiar, right, Dean?
It sure does. We've been preaching this for about over a year now. Adapt or die.
Adapt or die. That's our motto.
That's what it sure is. Yeah. All right. So we could keep talking about this forever. So that, and this has been great. So we're gonna ask a couple of final questions here. First off, if you can give us one concise sentence to describe Smiles Change Lives, what would you say?
The organization Smiles Change Lives changes lives.
Okay, all right, that works. All right. Bingo. All right, well said.
Party pants, but
Right. All right, I'm going to ask you another question. You have the ability now to go into Times Square and put up a billboard today, and it's going to be seen by 5 million people. What does it say on it? Doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to be about the company. It could be or whatever, but it could be just a personal thought, or it could be just Smiles Change Lives, whatever. But let's make it not Smiles Change Lives. What would you put up on your billboard today?
But I mean, working together we can. Working together we can do so much. And as long as we're talking, it doesn't have to be through Smiles Change Lives. My boss is
Right.
going to hate me for saying that, but at the same time, as long as we are all communicating together and we're helping the younger generation. So yeah, I would say concisely, together we can.
Okay, great. All right. Melanie, quick question for you.
Okay.
You have the ability to have lunch with two people, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional. Who you having lunch with?
Wow. That's a great one. Well, to be honest, one of the first people I would choose would be Jesus.
Okay.
Just, to be able to sit down with somebody that's had such an impact on the world and be able to find out, God, the questions would be endless.
Right. Okay. All right. Number two.
And number two, wow,
It's a tough act to follow, Jesus.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
right.
Second set right there. Yeah.
Yeah, like who else would you pick?
It could
No,
be a
I
fictional
honestly
person.
don't
It could,
know. Do what?
it could be a fictional person. It could be a character. It could be um, whatever. All right, Alexis, your turn.
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling you might know where I'm going to go
Uh,
with mine.
Go ahead. Okay,
Oh,
you're going where the weather suits your clothes.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, two of my favorite songwriters of all time. Being a musician and being in love with music, it would have to be John Lennon and Jerry Garcia. It's
Okay,
pretty straight up and down for me.
nice, good.
And that could change in the next hour.
Of course, but right now there are
The
not
Dean
much more
Steinman is a
people.
close third now, right?
Exactly right. Hey, listen, at least I'm in the top 10.
Hey,
So all good. All right, so guys, if anybody who's listening has any questions, wants to get in contact with you, um, become a provider, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, to become a provider, you can. I'm probably the best contact as far as that, and it's emails are always easy because I'm traveling again after all of this insanity, and but it's Alexis at smileschangelives.org. And you can also contact our office 816-474-0052, which is our provider line. And that works for whether you want to be a provider, whether you want to know more about access to care, if you're a younger doctor and don't know where to start. The one thing, like I say, is obviously we want as many people to work with Smiles Change Lives, but the bottom line is, as long as we're all out there helping kids, then we want to work with as many people as possible, with that being the result.
Awesome. Great. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. This has been very informational. Smiled a little bit and we had a good old time. So thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Once again, if you wanted to get some good karma, you want to do some good things out there, you want to give people a smile, please reach out to them. They're a great organization, and thumbs up to them and the work they're doing. So Melanie and Alexis, thanks so much. Dr. Glaser, once again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, man. And everybody out there at podcast land, go Jets. 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 I had to throw it in. All right, everybody.
thanks for having us.
Happy smiles. All right. Bye-bye.